Hello and welcome to another episode of Do You Want More, a UFC stat show right here on the Monkmatics channel. I am your host Monk, aka the Monkmatician, and in this week's episode we are going into the prelim card. All 6 fights on that prelim card for UFC Vegas 39, headlined by Mackenzie Dern and Marina Rodriguez. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. First fight of the night, starting off the prelims, Steve Garcia going against Charlie Ontiveros. This is going to be a lightweight fight. Charlie Ontiveros moving down from middleweight. He has one fight in the UFC. I don't know if he's fought at any other weight class before this professionally, but he did fight Kevin Holland at middleweight, and he's dropping down to lightweight to fight Steve Garcia. So we'll get into it. Steve Garcia, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach, southpaw stance, 29 years old. He's 11-4 in the UFC. 11-4 professionally. 0-1 in the UFC. 40% of his professional fights have gone the distance. 53% have ended by way of KO TKO finish. 8 wins there, never been knocked out. He has no sub wins, has been subbed once. Let's see, his one fight in the UFC did go the distance against Luis Pena. Minus 4.35 AWI, low in the division, no power index, and 0 chin dex as well. Charlie Ontiveros, actually, Steve Garcia opened minus 300. He's currently minus 319, not much line movement. Charlie Ontiveros on the other side, as we said, middleweight last time, 6'2", 78-inch reach, 30 years old, 11-7 professionally, 0-1 in the UFC. 28% of his fights have gone the distance. 61% of his fights have been ended by KO TKO. 4 wins, 7 KO losses there for Charlie Ontiveros. 11% of his fights ended by submission. 2 wins, 0 losses. Total fight time in the UFC, 2.5 minutes basically. Negative 79 ass whoop index, 0 power index, and no chin dex as well. He opened plus 250. He's currently plus 245. This fight is minus 170. Does not go to decision. I capped this a little less wide than the bookies do, minus 257. Still a dominant victory by Steve Garcia, in my opinion. Let's get into the stats. As far as finishes go, let's see. Ontiveros did get finished by Holland in the first round. Basic striking data. Very low volume from both of these guys in each of their fights here. Steve Garcia, 1.4 strikes. If I say strikes, I mean significant strikes. 1.4 strikes landed per minute. 75th out of, here's my cursor, 75th is the rank out of 77 in the lightweight division, which is the division at which this fight is taking place. So that's how the rankings are made. 1.4 strikes landed a minute. 54% accuracy, not too bad. Gets hit with only 1.8 per minute. 8th lowest in the division. 35.7% defense, that is terrible. Negative differential, only getting hit with 1.8 strikes per minute, and you still have a negative striking differential. Negative 0.40, 56th out of 77th in the lightweight division. He's negative 10% accuracy, is Garcia. Spent only 4.9% of that 15 minutes fighting at distance. Interesting stat there. No knockdowns against. Charlie Ontiveros on the other side. Look at this terribly low volume. 0.75 strikes landed a minute. That is the very lowest in the lightweight division. 100% accuracy. 2 strikes landed, 2 thrown. I want to get rid of these stats over here because I never look at them. But in cases like this, it is nice to have them. 2 strikes landed in his 2.5 minutes there in the UFC. Got hit with 4.15 strikes a minute in that 2 minutes. 8.3% defense. Wow. Lowest in the division as well. Several of these numbers are the lowest in the division. Negative 3.4 strikes per minute differential. That is second, or actually third lowest when you add in Ontiveros to the stats here. 8.3% efficient. 16% of his fight happened at distance. No knockdowns against. Let's look at takedown data. 1 takedown landed. Let's see, per 15 minutes for Steve Garcia. 100% accuracy, it's 1 for 1. He stopped the 1 takedown against him. Not much there. 100% takedown efficiency. Not really many numbers to look at. Volume-wise for Ontiveros, 0 takedowns thrown. 2 of 2 landed against him for a 0 takedown defense. Control time data. 1.5% control time for Steve Garcia. 93.5% against. That is the highest number in that category in the division. I mean, this is like a 48-1, 49-1, ratio here as far as control time goes. Has spent 95% of his total fight time fighting inside the distance. Only controlled 1.6% of that fight time. Does have a hold down time of 14 seconds, very low. One submission attempt unsuccessful. He did also one submission attempt against him. He did stop that. And no reversals. Let's check out Ontiveros here. 0% control time, 83.5% control time against. For some reason, it's because I'm adding Ontiveros into the lightweight division. That's why all these numbers. Basically, these are the two lowest control time guys in the division. Pretty much is what this is saying. Huge negative differential. 83.5% of Ontiveros' fight time has come inside the distance. He controlled exactly 0% of that fight time. Fought for 2.5 minutes. Took him over a minute to get up on his takedown. His 2 takedowns rather. Submission data, nothing to speak of. Reversal data, nothing to speak of. Significant striking data. I kind of use this category just to see what sticks out to me here. And what sticks out to me is Steve Garcia's dominating over Ontiveros, which isn't saying much. These are very low volume numbers here, so you can only take these stats right now with a grain of salt. Obviously, as all stats, work better when you have a larger sample size. But either way, Garcia's defense is pretty high. His offense very low. Both of these guys towards the very, very bottom of the division offensively as far as volume, offensive and defensively. Striking efficiency and differentials, not looking good for either one pretty much. Striking head strikes, Steve Garcia, -0.6 head striking differential per minute, but a positive half a strike per minute. -0.87 ground strikes per minute. Look at this, Ontiveros, -3 head strikes differential per minute. He's getting popped on. And a -3.4 ground strike differential. Terrible. Advanced significant striking percentages. We can use this column here to tell if our fighter is a headhunter or not. 82% of Steve Garcia's total strikes thrown, significant strikes rather, have been targeted to the head. 7.7 to the body. 10.2 to the legs. Only 69% of all strikes thrown have gone at distance from Garcia. And then Ontiveros, just the 2 strikes. Both were to the head, both at distance. Last 5 we can skip because both fighters only have 1 fight. So the stats will be the exact same as above. And by 1 fight, I mean 1 in the UFC. Strength of schedule, I do go outside the UFC for these statistics. Only the last 5 fights get counted for the strength of schedule here. 4-1 is Steve Garcia. Charlie Ontiveros 3-2. Garcia has the much better strength of schedule, and it's not even close. Charlie Ontiveros, one of the lowest strength of victories, 38, that I've ever seen. That is a terrible strength of victory. That means the guys he's beaten have terrible records. Terrible, terrible. So yeah, there's only 22 fighters on the slate. Charlie Ontiveros has the lowest strength of schedule out of all of them. There are the losses in the UFC. Close loss from Violent Bob Ross from Steve Garcia, and then Ontiveros got his ass whooped with this -79 ass whooping index here. And a couple of graphs we don't need to look at, only 1 fight. And then the visual statistical recap, basic fight metrics. These are just the UFC numbers here. Not much to look at because there aren't many stats, I should say, for these two. Finishing fights, these go for all 5 organizations rather outside the UFC. So not too many subs from either guy. Garcia's never been knocked out, has a big power index, good win percentage. And then the strength of schedule. Big time domination here from Garcia, as we just mentioned. And then the aggregate win-loss and finish rates. Kind of use these graphs to tell if a fight is going to finish inside the distance or not. Kind of gives you a good idea. So professionally is on the left, all their professional fights. Large finishing rates here. Look at this, 63% of wins, or of finishes and wins. And then 72% of their losses have been finishes. But on the UFC, only 2 fights, 50%. Ontiveros got finished. Garcia didn't, 50% across the board. So that's kind of how those break down. All right, as usual, that's going to be our longest fight of the video. So keep tuning in. No more explanations needed. Lupita Godinez on the next fight against Sam Hughes. Strawweight fight here, 115. Lupi, 5'2", 61-inch reach, orthodox fighter, 28 years old. She is 5-1 professionally, 0-1 in the UFC. 83% of her pro fights have gone the distance. She's gone 4-1 in those decisions. 16% have ended by way of KO TKO, 1 win, 0 losses, and 0% submissions either way. One fight did go 15 minutes. She has a positive ass whoop index of 1.73, about average for the division, 0 power index, and a perfect chin index of 0. Lupi is opened 150. She's currently minus 198, so a bit of line movement there. Sam Hughes on the other side, 5'5", 64-inch reach, so a bit bigger than Lupita. Orthodox stance, 29 years old, 5'3" professionally, 0-2, 5'3" professionally, 5-3 professionally, 0-2 in the UFC. 25% of her fights in her career have gone the distance, 1-1 there. 25% ended by KO TKO, 1 win, 1 loss, and 50% ended by sub, 3 wins, 1 loss. Average fight time in her 2 fights, 10 minutes. She has a negative 13.85 ass whoop index, second lowest in the division. No power index, no chin index. Let's see, she opened plus 130, currently plus 162. This fight is a plus 175, doesn't go, minus 245, does go. I don't currently have any odds out. There are no odds out for the fighter inside the distance or win by decision. So those are going to be zeros. I'm capping this fight at 75-25, basically. Minus 300, plus 300 for Lupi Godinez. Finish rate, not anything to speak of in the UFC, except Sam has been finished once in the first round. Striking data, 2.67 strikes landed per minute for Lupi, 54% accuracy, 2.07 strikes landed against per minute, 64% defense, positive differential 0.60. That's 11th highest in the division. She's 18.42 striking efficiency, first in the division there, the highest striking efficiency at strawweight. She's spent 42% of her total fight time fighting at distance. No knockdowns against. Sam Hughes, 3.45 strikes landed per minute, 54.76% accuracy, so pretty good numbers there. She gets hit in the strawweight division with the most punches out of all 32 fighters I have going. 6.8 strikes per minute landed against, 40% defense. I mean, the worst striking differential in the division, minus 3.35 per minute, negative 5% striking efficiency. And with all those terrible defensive striking numbers, she has spent 54.17% of her total fight time fighting at distance. No knockdowns for or against. Takedown data, pretty good for Lupita. 3 takedowns landed per 15 minutes. 1 takedown landed against per 15. 85.7% takedown defense. That's what you like to see right there. 12% takedown shooting rate, second highest in the division. Interesting. 19% takedown efficiency. Let's take a look at Miss Sam Hughes. Oh, messing up my little handlebar here. Getting it going. I'm going to look like Mike fucking Beltran in 20 years, baby. I'm going to have to watch out. My shit's going to get caught up in my handlebars. I tell you what. Sam Hughes, no takedowns landed per 15 minutes. 0 for 3 in her career. In her UFC career. 3.75 takedowns landed against per minute. Oof. At a 44% defense. Oof. Opponent takedown rate only 4%. Meanwhile, Lupi's over here shooting at 12% of the time. And she's not going to have to worry about Sam Hughes taking her down. Interesting. Basic control time data, 27% against, or for, 30% against for Lupi. Almost a 1-to-1 there, not quite. 57% of her total fight time has been fought inside the distance, and she's controlled 48% of that grappling time, so not too bad. Very long get-up time, and an okay hold-down time. Let's see, no sub-attempts for or against, and no reversals either. Sam Hughes, 37% control time, very good, and only 8.7% control time against. Those are both 6th in the division. 4.25 to 1 control time ratio. She has spent 46% of her total fight time fighting inside the distance, and she's controlled 81% of that fight time. So some very good control numbers here from Sam Hughes. The first good numbers really that we've seen so far. A 21-second get-up time. That is the fastest get-up time in the division. She has no hold-down time, no takedowns landed, 0 subs for or against, 0 reversals for or against. What stands out to me in advanced significant striking data? Let's see here. Some pretty good accuracy and defensive accuracy for the most part from Godinez. And the numbers are kind of all over the place for Sam Hughes. Towards the bottom of the division as far as volume-wise. Nothing really in the top half until you get to clinch striking. Let's go ahead and go down to advanced striking efficiency and differentials. Great numbers here from Loopy except for leg strikes. She's got positive differentials everywhere except for body striking. Sam Hughes, a couple negative numbers here. Fantastic inside the distance striking efficiency, 94%. She has a negative striking differentials from every location. Head, body, legs, distance, clinch, ground. I said every location, goddammit, and I meant it, guys. I meant it. Minus 2.45 strikes per minute to the body. She must have been sore the next day, dude. Holy shit. Advanced striking percentages, 85% of all strikes thrown from Godinez have been thrown to the head, 10.8 to the body, and 4 to the legs. 92% of all strikes thrown have been at distance. That is the 4th highest number in the strawweight division. Sam Hughes, the complete opposite. Only 63.5% of her strikes thrown have gone to the head, 15.8% to the body, and a whopping 20.5% to the legs. 82% from distance. 15% at clinch. That's quite a bit. There are the graphical representations of what I just said. Last 5 fights, we can skip that. Strength of schedule based on the last 5. Loopy is 4-1. Sam Hughes 2-3. It's pretty clear to see who's got this. Neither one of these ladies have a great strength of schedule. You know, a good numbers are in the 70s, 75. That's about average. But that's what you'd want to see. Anything above that is pretty good. These ladies are far below that, in the 50s in a couple categories, but Loopy's definitely winning that here. Or no, actually she's winning the strength of schedule and the strength of defeat win percentage, but I mean, the ratios of the last 5 they're just poor all around. Poor. Lupita lost to Jessica Penne back in April. Sam Hughes lost to Loma Lukbunmi and Tisha Torres, the Tiny Tornado. Were they ass whoopings? They were kind of ass whoopings there. And actually, Godinez, by the metrics, won that fight. Has a positive ass whoop index. That means you won the fight, in my book. 1.73. Let's take a quick look. Outstruck her by 9 strikes. 0.6 per minute. Landed 3 takedowns to 1. 27% control time for, 30% against. Split decision. That was a close one. Couple of graphs. Sam Hughes is trending up, but her opponent is trending far higher than she is. Same with takedowns. Control time is where she really shines. Like we said, Sam Hughes, that is her dominant category. Control time. Basic fight metrics. Pretty much Loopy Godinez, except for the grappling control percentage and the distance percentage here. The accuracy is actually really close. Sam Hughes does have that. Fight finishing metrics. Lupita's never been finished. Hughes has been finished every which way. And then the strength of schedule is all Lupita Godinez except for that strength of victory. And then the aggregate win-loss finish rate. I mean, come on, even in their professional career, 50-50 shot that their fights end by way of finish. Far less in the UFC, so we're thinking 3-round decision. But hey, I didn't have to tell you that. Third fight of the night, Charles Rosa. I like this fight just for the fact that, well, we'll get into it in a second. Cliffhanger, starring Sylvester Stallone. Featherweight fight here. Charles Rosa, 5'9", 69-inch reach, switch stance fighter, 35 years old, 14-5 professionally. He is 5-5 in the UFC. Let's see, 37% of his fights have gone the distance. He's 3-4 in those decisions. 21% have been ended by way of KO, TKO, 3 wins, 1 loss. And 42% of his fights have been ended by way of sub, 8 wins, 0 losses. That's a shitload of subs right there. 13.5 or 13.45 average fight time. Ass whoop index in his UFC career of a minus 4.34. No power index and a chin index, not very good. 0.60. 53 out of 73 there. He did open Charles Rosa minus 180, and that line is completely flipped. It is plus 143. The widest line movement on the card is this fight right here. Damon Jackson, 5'11", 71-inch reach, so a bit bigger. Switch stance fighter as well, 33 years old. 18-4-1 professionally, 1-2-1 in the UFC. 8% of his fights, 9% of his fights have gone the distance. 1-0 in those fights. Let's see, 26% ended by KO TKO, 3 wins, 3 losses. And a whopping, a gigantic 65% of his professional fights have been ended by way of submission. 14 sub wins, 1 sub loss. That is just crazy. Average fight time, 7.8 minutes. Negative 10.67 ass whoop index. That is pretty low in the division. One of the lowest there is. 0 power to index and a worse chindex than Charles Rosa, 0.70. Jackson opened plus 155. He's currently minus 172. This fight, plus 125, doesn't go to decision. Minus 165 does go. My capping formula says that this fight should not have flipped. I have Charles Rosa minus 105. I don't know if I'm going to bet that. I'm not really confident in that, but let's get into the numbers here. Finish rates right there in the UFC. Couple submission wins for each of them. Or for, let's see, 1 finish in the first round for Charles Rosa, 1 in the third, and Damon Jackson has a 3rd round finish win as well. Has been finished in the 1st and 2nd as Jackson. Basic striking data. Charles Rosa, a lot of green on the left side here. 3.14 strikes landed per minute, 36% accuracy. Gets hit with 3.69 strikes landed per minute at a 48.6% defense. Has a negative striking differential of negative 0.55 strikes landed per minute. 57th out of 73. He's a negative 15% striking efficiency. He spent 51.7% of his fight time fighting at distance. No knockdowns, 3 knockdowns against. That is a 0.33 knockdown against per 15 rate for Charles Rosa. So some pretty poor numbers if we're looking. I mean, look at these rankings. Really towards the bottom end of the division, not even halfway. And especially in the efficiency, differential, etc. And these numbers are all green. That means he's better than Damon Jackson, who lands 2.46 strikes a minute, 35.79% accuracy, 3.63 is what he gets hit with per minute, 45% defense, negative 1.17 striking differential per minute, negative 19% efficiency, 37% of his total fight time fighting at distance, 0 knockdowns, 1 knockdown against, but that knockdown against rate is still higher than Charles Rosa's. I mean, you put that, somehow Jackson's numbers in the striking department are all worse than Charles Rosa's. So this is probably not going to be a striking battle. Basic takedown data, Charles Rosa lands 1.78 takedowns per 15 minutes at a 35.5% accuracy. He gets hit with 2 takedowns a minute at a terrible 38% defense. Oh, that's really bad. Let's see. Negative 26.5% takedown efficiency. Again, this is the same pattern. These numbers aren't great in the division. I mean, the volume number is okay offensively. Everything else is pretty poor, and he's still beating the Damon Jackson takedown numbers. Low volume landed 1.14 per 15 minutes, 20% accuracy. Gets hit with 3.43 takedowns per minute at a 35.7% defense, negative 2.28 differential. The only thing I can say about these very low takedown numbers is that these guys are submission guys. They don't care if they're on the ground. In fact, they prefer it. So they'll let you take them down. I mean, look at this. Charles Rosa's had 29 takedowns completed against him. Damon Jackson has had 12 takedowns completed against him. They want you to take them down. So they're saying, come with me. Hail Mary. I mean, they're going to submit you. That's what they want. Basic control time data. 15.5% for Charles Rosa. 32% against. Not a good number there. I don't care if you're a submission guy or not. You don't want to get controlled, 2-1, basically. 32% of his total fight time, 48% of his total fight time has been fought inside the distance. He's only controlled 32% of that. So not great. Not a good get up time, not a good hold down time, not a good control time activity rate. Damon Jackson on the other side, pretty much 1-to-1 control time. 31% for and against. 62%, almost 63% of his total fight time has come inside the distance. And he's controlled over 50% of that grappling time. That's what you want to see here. Again, just like in our last fight, Damon Jackson losing every category until we get to control time, where he absolutely dominates. Submission data, tons of submissions here. 20% success rate for Rosa, 15% almost for Damon Jackson. Rosa never been submitted in the UFC. 13 times it's been tried. Damon Jackson has been submitted once inside the UFC. Couple reversals, several actually, for and against Charles Rosa. These are huge. I can actually read these numbers. 22% of all takedowns landed against Charles Rosa, he reverses. And then 44% of the takedowns landed that he lands get reversed. So that's that stat right there that I rarely ever read off. Striking data, look at these numbers, very, very bad. I mean, towards the bottom of the division. You can look at them if you want. I'm not really putting much stock into any striking numbers between either of these guys. Same with the striking differentials and efficiency. They're going to be negative pretty much across the board. So we're, seeing whose shit smells worse at this point. Striking differential or percentages pretty much the same. Jackson throws many more body strikes than he does compared to leg strikes, and those compared to Rosa, I should say. Last 5 fights, we can actually no, we're not going to look at them. Each one has had 5 fights, so these numbers are the exact same. Actually, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. Charles Rosa's had 10 fights in the UFC, so Jackson's numbers will be the exact same. But we can look at Rosa here. Negative 8.69 ass whoop index in his last 5. No power. His chin index is a bit better than it was in his career. Categorical trends comparing the stats from the last 5 to their career. And Rosa's actually raised his striking accuracy. His strikes landed against per minute has gotten better, and his takedown accuracy has gotten much better in his last 5. 14% raise in that statistic over compared to his career, rather. His takedown defense, like we said, going down the tubes. All right, strength of schedule based on last 5. They're each 3-2 professionally. I don't think that's right. That can't. Oh yeah, I'll explain why that's the case in case you don't know. Damon Jackson has the better strength of schedule. There's some high strength of schedules between these two guys. Looking good. I mean, we're over 75 in every category for Rosa, and he's losing 3 of the categories. That's crazy. Both of these guys have outstanding strength of schedules. Fight history. This is why Damon Jackson is 3-2 in the strength of schedule, but 1-2-1 in his last 5 in the UFC. He had a break in the UFC. After the draw to Makashvili, he had a 4-year break where he was fighting at other organizations. Then he came back to the UFC and fought Mirsad Bektic and Ilia Topuria. So there are the last 5 fights. Nothing's, a couple close wins, but nothing looks out of order here. Actually the Bektic win, Jackson had a negative 14.8% or 14.8 ass whoop index. He was getting dominated in that fight, it looks like. Yeah, controlled 82%, and then he pulls off a submission. Awesome. And then Ilia Topuria smashed his face. Charles Rosa, couple of graphs here, trending up as far as strikes go. Opponents trending down, so looking really good there. He's still a strike below his opponents on average. Takedowns needs work, but, opponents trending down, and control time as well, but we talked about why. We don't like that control time number. I mean, that's almost a 10-to-1 number. 9.5 to 1. Damon Jackson trending up in striking, but so are his opponents at a much higher rate. Trending down in takedowns, opponents trending up, and yeah, some poor graphs for Damon Jackson here. Basic fight metrics. I mean, Rosa's pretty much dominating except that grapple control percent. Same with fight finishing metrics there, except Jackson does have a higher percentage of sub wins, or subs in wins rather. And then the strength of schedule is Jackson. And then is this fight going to finish or not? In the UFC, it's pretty much 50-50. Professionally, much higher than that as far as win rate, as far as finishes and wins. So kind of have to keep an eye on that. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. We're already at half an hour. Alexander Romanov. I can't wait for this one. Heavyweight fight. Jared Vanderaa. Romanov here, 6'2", 75-inch reach, southpaw, 30 years old. Undefeated record, 14-0. He's 3-0 in the UFC. Just look at these sub numbers here. 8 wins by sub in his career, 5 wins by knockout. Crazy. Only 1 fight gone to decision. Average fight time in the UFC, 8.5 minutes. A 20.9 ass whoop index, 5th highest in the UFC. No power index, but he's never been knocked down. He opened minus 400. He's currently minus 407. Jared Vanderaa, 6'4", 80-inch reach. Orthodox fighter, 29 years old, 12-5 professionally, 1-1 in the UFC. 47% of his fights have ended by KO, TKO, 7 wins, 1 loss. He has 3 sub wins and 2 sub losses on his record. 12.27 average fight time. Only a 1.81 ass whoop index, a pretty good power index, 0.80, and a perfect chin index. Vanderaa opened plus 330. He's currently plus 309. And I have this capped pretty lopsided as well, 70-30 for the most part. Couple of round by round finishes there. And then striking, 3.68 strikes landed per minute for Romanov at a 45% accuracy. Gets hit with only 1.47 strikes per minute. Second lowest in the division, 44% accuracy. A great differential, 2.22 strikes landed per minute. Differential, 4th highest in the heavyweight division. A negative striking efficiency though, and he's only spent 18% of his total fight time fighting at distance. Interesting. Spoiler alert, Romanov likes his submissions. 0 knockdowns against Jared Vanderaa. 5.1 strikes landed per minute. Big volume there. 48% accuracy. Gets hit with only 3.26 strikes landed against per minute. 48.7% defense. A great differential as well. 1.83 per minute. 9th highest in the division. Decent striking efficiency compared to Romanov. Spent the opposite, 92% of his total fight time fighting at distance. Does have 1 knockdown in the UFC. Takedown data. 4.75 takedowns landed per 15 minutes for Romanov, 3rd highest. Attempts 7.272 per 15. He does that at a 61.5% accuracy. Only a 20% takedown defense, but guess what? Just like the last fight, he wants to be on the ground. Please take him down, he says. Please take me down, Jared Vanderaa. 6.28% takedown shooting rate. Negative takedown efficiency, but it doesn't matter as long as he ends up on the ground. And then Jared Vanderaa, he's not taking anyone down, and no one's even attempted to take him down. So yeah, I wonder if this is going to be super lopsided in favor of Romanov here. But yeah, literally no takedown data for Jared Vanderaa in 2 fights. That is interesting. Control time, 70% for Romanov, only 11.5% against. That is a 6-to-1 ratio. Has spent 82% of his total fight time fighting inside the distance, and he's controlled 86% of that fight time. Has the quickest get-up time in the heavyweight division, and a decent hold-down time as well. 3 sub attempts. He's been awesome on 2 of 3 of those. No reversals for or against. Jared Vanderaa, only 2.4% control time. 5.4% control time against. That's going to drastically change in this fight, I do believe. Only fought 7.88% of his total fight time inside the distance, and he only controlled 31% of that fight time. This is going to be a smashing. This is going to be an absolute smashing, I think. Here are the striking numbers, which probably don't matter because the faster this goes to the ground, the faster it is going to be over. Efficiency looking okay, actually, for Romanov. Head striking differentials from a grappler, pretty good. Plus 2.18 per minute. Yeah, I was going to say a lot of them are probably ground strikes. And yeah, 2.73 ground strike differential per minute there. Yeah, 82.6% of all strikes thrown for Romanov have been on the ground. First in the heavyweight division. Last 5, we can skip that. Romanov is 5-0 professionally. Jared Vanderaa 3-2 professionally. Romanov wins this category. They actually have the exact same strength of schedule. I've never seen that before. 67.39. That should be this, I guess. If you go out to 3 or more decimals, Vanderaa, I guess, has it. But Romanov has everything else. Some very high strength of schedules here. Some good ratios for Romanov as well. He beat Juan Espino barely, 0.35 ass whoop index in that fight. Smashed Lima by sub. Smashed Martinez by sub. And then Vanderaa beat Tafa via decision, lost to Spivak via knockout. Then a couple of graphs trending up. Romanov isn't striking, and he's just dominating his opponents. That's mostly because of those ground strikes. Takedowns, fantastic. Control time, fantastic. Three great graphs from Romanov. Vanderaa trending up and striking. 5.1, that's high volume. That control time, these things are going to change drastically after this fight. Basic fight metrics here in the recap. I like Romanov here. I mean, never been finished. Vanderaa has a higher power index, but that's it. Strength of schedule is going to go to Romanov for the most part. It is pretty even, though. And then win-loss and finish rates, I'm thinking this definitely gets finished. I think Romanov subs Vanderaa. As soon as this goes to the ground, it's pretty much over, in my opinion. Romanov's going to be able to do whatever he wants to Jared Vanderaa. So, sorry, Jared. This ain't your fight, I don't think. Floriano Staropoli in the next fight, going against Jamie Pickett. Let's see here. Middleweight fight. Staropoli, 6'1", 71-inch reach, 28 years old, 9-4 professionally. He's 2-3 in the UFC. 46% of his fights have been ended by KO TKO. 5 wins, 1 loss. 2 sub wins, 0 sub losses there. Average fight time in the UFC, 15 minutes. Negative 5.97 ass whoop index, very low. Never had a knockdown. And he has an average Chindex, little below average of 0.35. He opened at minus 150. He's currently minus 211. So I'm sure Staropoli is loving being the favorite here for once. Jamie Pickett, 6'2", 80-inch reach. My goodness. Orthodox fighter, 33 years old, 11-6 professionally. But that reach has done nothing for him in the UFC. He is 0-2. 53% of his fights have ended by knockout. 8 wins, 1 loss. He has 1 sub win and 2 sub losses on his record as well. Average fight time, 8 minutes. Huge negative 27.72 ass whoop index. 68th out of 70 in the middleweight division. No power, and his Chindex is awful. 1.37. Pickett opened at plus 130. He's currently plus 170. This fight is a plus 135. Doesn't go to decision. Minus 175 does go. I got Staropoli dominating here, basically 2-1. You know what I'm saying? Minus 200 to plus 200 here. Some finishing data. Pickett's been finished once in the UFC. Yep, in the first round. Striking data, 3.64 landed per minute from Staropoli at a 33.5% accuracy. Gets hit with 3.85 per minute. 54.5% defense is a negative 0.21 strikes landed per minute differential. That is 48th out of 70 in the division. Negative 12% striking efficiency. He has fought 75% of his total fight time at distance. No knockdowns for, 1 knockdown against, but only a 0.20 knockdown against per 15. That is just below average in the division. Jamie Pickett on the other side lands only 2.74 strikes per minute at a 51% defense, much better than Staropoli. Gets hit with 9.09 strikes per minute. Worst in the division, 33% defense. My God, this striking differential is literally the worst I've ever seen. Negative 6.35 strikes landed per minute differential. Obviously worst in the division. Maybe worse in the UFC. Minus 15.5% efficiency. And with all those fantastic striking numbers, he chooses to spend 76% of his time fighting at striking distance. No knockdowns for, 2 knockdowns against, 1.87 knockdowns against per 15 minutes, 69th in the division. I mean, come on, murder was the case. I think is going to be the case in this fight. Basic takedown data. This is where Jamie Pickett kind of wins, but these numbers aren't great. I mean, 52% defense for Staropoli, 100% defense from Pickett, stopping all 2 takedowns. But other than that, not much in the way of takedowns. Control time, 1.91% for Staropoli, 23% against. Wow. Has spent 25% of his total fight time fighting inside the distance. He's only controlled 7% of that fight time. I take back the murder. I maybe I'm going to want to murder myself when I'm watching this fight. This is not going to be a good fight. I mean, these numbers are terrible. terrible across the board. Jamie Pickett, only 4% control time, 18% control time against, has spent 23.5% of his fight time fighting inside the distance, and he's controlled 20% of that fight time. These numbers are awful, and they're better than Staropoli here. I don't know what. I don't even want to watch this fight, to be quite honest. Staropoli dominating the advanced significant striking data as far as volume goes, and even as far as accuracy in a few categories. Efficiency and differentials pretty poor across the board, but still Staropoli has winning numbers like negative 0.59 strikes per minute in the clinch. Oh my God, Jamie Pickett, look how badly he's getting pieced up. Minus 3.8 head strikes per minute differential. Distance, minus 2.8 body strikes per minute. Minus 4.23 clinch strikes. Dude, I take it back twice. Jamie Pickett's going to get murdered. Advanced significant striking percentage. Bet the house on Laureano Staropoli. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Do not do that. 82% of all strikes thrown from Staropoli have been thrown to the head, 15% to the body, 3 to the legs. Pretty identical numbers from Pickett. Last 3 fights we don't need to look at. Strength of schedule, very clearly Staropoli, and it's not too close. Pickett has been beaten by some pretty, some guys with good records, I should say. I was going to say pretty tough guys, but hey, everybody's a tough guy in the UFC, right? Staropoli had, such a sick, awesome fight against Roman Dolidze. That was a fucking banger. Tim Means, Muslim Salikov, and then wins over Thiago Alves and Hector Aldana. So, and that win over Alves, he has a negative ass whoop index, so not a good look there. Trending down in strikes is Staropoli, the only category he's supposed to be good in. And then, these numbers are so bad. These numbers are so bad. I'm not even going to finish talking about them. This fight sucks. Don't even watch it. I don't know what people see in Staropoli, but, I mean, he should win here. This fight is not good. It's not a good fight. Is this a loser leaves town match? Oh, loser leaves town match. 3 L's in a row for Staropoli, 2 in a row for Pickett. Loser leaves town match. All right, 1 fight left. Chris. I can't spell. There we go. Had a brain fart. Bantamweight fight. Chris Gutierrez going against Felipe Colares. Gutierrez, 5'9", 67-inch reach, Orthodox fighter, 30 years old rather, 6-3-2 in the UFC, 4-1-1 or 6-3-2 professionally. 4-1-1 in the UFC. 57% of his fights have gone the distance. He's 8-3 in those decisions. 7 wins, 0 losses by KO, TKO, and 1 win, 1 loss by sub. Average fight time in the UFC, 13 minutes. Ass whoop index is decent, 1.89. Has a pretty good power index, 0.89. That's 20th out of 74 in the bantamweight division. And he has a fantastic chindex, perfect chindex rather, of 0. That's right where you want to see. He opened minus 250. He's currently minus 268, so a bit of line movement in his favor, but not much. Felipe Colares on the other side. Last fought at featherweight. As we said, this fight is at bantamweight, so always keep an eye out when guys are moving up and down weight classes, just for your own personal knowledge. 5'8" is Colares, 69-inch reach, Orthodox fighter, 27 years old. He's 10-2 professionally, 2-2 in the UFC. 41% of his fights have gone the distance. He's 3-2 in those decisions. 2 wins by knockout, 5 wins by sub. He's never been finished professionally. Average fight time in the UFC, 15 minutes, negative 13.11 ass whoop index, no power index, and a pretty poor chindex of 0.79. Colares opened plus 210, currently plus 212. This fight is plus 150, does not go to decision. Minus 190 does go to decision. I'm capping this pretty heavily for Chris Gutierrez, as well as, the bookies are. I'm not as wide on it, but, 170 to me, in my capping, is pretty wide. I guess it's pretty, that was such a fucking stupid thing to say. Some fight finishing data there. Hey, it's only 1 a.m, so it's not too late yet. I have no excuse except just being an idiot. Round finishing data, 1 for Gutierrez, nothing for Colares there in any of his fights. One round 2 finish loss for Gutierrez as well. Let's get into the striking data. Some good volume here from Gutierrez. 4.3 strikes landed per minute at a 57.5% accuracy, 6th highest in the bantamweight division, so a top 10 number there. Only gets hit with 2.45 strikes per minute. Pretty good there. 59.96, pretty good there. Can I keep saying it? But it is pretty good there. 1.84 strikes landed per minute differential. That is 15th highest in the division. 17% striking efficiency. 74% of his total fight time has been fought at distance. Let's see here. How much changes there? 3 knockdowns, 4, and 0 against. So has a 0.57 knockdown per 15 rate. 22nd in the division. Pretty good. Felipe Colares. Look at all these red numbers. I wonder who's winning this category. Lands only 2.15 strikes per minute. That's 68th, the lowest in the bantamweight division. 51% accuracy, so not bad. Just a low volume guy. But he does have no defense. No defense. 4.22 strikes landed against per minute. 38% defense. Negative 2.07 strikes landed per minute differential. That is like the eighth lowest number in that category in this division. Negative striking efficiency. Has spent only 31% of his total fight time fighting at distance. No knockdowns for, 2 knockdowns against, as a 0.5 knockdown against per 15 ratio. 53rd in the division. Not great, but he's only lost 50% of the fights in which he's been knocked down, so that's a plus. Takedown data. 0.57 landed per 15 for Gutierrez at a 60% accuracy. That's only 3 for 5, but still, his takedown defense is really where he shines. He does get hit with 1.34 against per 15 minutes, but he's got a 73% takedown defense. That is pretty good. 33% takedown efficiency, also pretty good. Colares lands a better number, 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, only a 23% accuracy, but his takedown defense is really where he does not shine. Gets hit with 5.25 takedowns against per 15 minutes. I mean, that's like the third highest number in that category in the division. 38% defense. 38% defense. And all those terrible numbers, he has a 13.5% takedown shooting rate. That's the second highest shooting rate at bantamweight. So that is a very confusing number, considering he has a negative 38% efficiency. So that's a real head scratcher. Basic control time data. 6.95% for Gutierrez, only 6.95. 18.56% against. So again, not good control time numbers for a lot of these fighters on these prelim cards. Spends only 25% of his total fight time fighting inside the distance, but which is fine. But he only controls 27% of that fight time, which is not fine. 1 sub attempt for, 3 sub attempts against, one of which was successful against. Colares, I mean, a big control time number here, 25%, but a huge control time against number at 44%. That's almost 2 to 1. Has spent 69% of his total fight time fighting inside the distance. 5th highest number in the division. Again, only controls 36.5% of that fight time. A terrible number. 3 sub attempts for, 1 against. Striking numbers pretty much belong to Gutierrez, especially the defense and accuracy numbers aren't even close. And then most of the volume numbers as well. Striking efficiency and differentials, clearly it's Chris Gutierrez. Colares is everywhere, negative everywhere, I should say. Every efficiency category, every differential category except for ground. Excuse me, I got the hiccups now. And Gutierrez looks fantastic everywhere. Positive numbers pretty much everywhere. Gutierrez, only 48% of his all strikes thrown have gone to the head. Wow. 13.9% to the body, 38% to the legs. That's the highest number I've ever seen, probably. Second in the division, the bantamweight division, 37% leg strikes. So if you're Colares, let's see, does he get hit with a lot of leg strikes? Not too many, but that's going to change after this fight, it sounds like. I mean, look at this. Over half of the strikes he's landed have been leg strikes. That is insane. Last 5 we can take a look at for the Gutierrez side. 4-0-1 in his last 5, has a great ass whooping index, a great power index, and the best chin index possible, dominating Colares in every category that matters for the most part, except for maybe takedowns landed per 15 and then the control time numbers. But control time, again, I mean, everything that really matters. We've got positive differentials here, and we're negative everywhere for Colares over here. Look at this. Categorical trends. Look who's improved in every single category over his last 5 compared to his total career, which is only 6 fights in the UFC. But still, improvements everywhere. Love to see it. And then strength of schedule, 4-0-1. Chris Gutierrez, 3-2. Colares in his last 5. This one's going to go to Colares. It is kind of close. It's actually really close. But the one thing Gutierrez has going for him, he has not lost a fight in his last 5. But some good strength of schedules from both of these guys, for sure. Very good strength of schedules. They're not fighting cans, okay? Gutierrez wins over Ewell, Morales, Freitas, and McDonald. Draw against Cody Durden, which he did lose according to the ass whoop index, minus 3.85. And then Colares beat Luke Sanders. You know, he's on a win-loss, loses to Jackson, beats Pilarte, and then loses to Freitas, who is their common opponent here. Split decision, very close fight. In fact, Freitas technically, or according to the metrics, not technically, won the fight because Gutierrez has a negative ass whoop index here. But very close fights for both guys. And then some graphs, and we'll get on out of here. Gutierrez way above his opponents in striking and trending up. Love to see that. Takedowns trending up, but is below, and same with control time, not really trending up at all. Colares, you know, half of the volume, if I could speak, half of the volume of his opponents. He is trending up though. He's getting dominated pretty much everywhere. I mean, some pretty poor graphs here from Colares. And then basic fight metrics, domination for Gutierrez everywhere except that grappling control percent. But both guys are so, you know, have such low numbers in that category that it's not really going to be an issue. Colares, note to self, never been finished. I think I said that already, but here you can see it in graph form. And then Gutierrez, you know, pretty even strength of schedule, but it's going to be Colares there. And then the aggregate win-loss and finish rates, pretty low actually. Professionally, they, you know, over half the wins have been finishes, but only 20% of the losses. Then you go in the UFC and look at that the finishes and wins rate. Goes from 58% to 16%. And then the loss is only 33%. This fight is probably going to go the distance, you guys. I mean, unless Chris Gutierrez, let's see. Colares lost to Jackson by decision, and he lost to Freitas by decision. So, as we just said, he's never been finished. So, I expect domination from Chris Gutierrez here, and I expect it to go the distance. All right, guys. We have done it. All 6 fights on the prelims, just under an hour. I want to thank you very much for sticking around. Make sure you do your fight tape, guys. Do your fight tape. Pair it together with this amazing, incredible stat study that I've just brought you. Just kidding. But no, seriously, pair these up together, and you will take money from your bookies, guys. Yeah, be on the lookout for the second episode this week, which is going to be the 5 fights of the main card. Do you want more? Breaking down all 5 fights of the main card. The Phil Hawes, Sabina Mazo, Tim Elliott, Randy Brown, and Mackenzie Dern. Breaking down all those fights, same deal. So look for that as well. And thanks a lot for tuning in. Get some money this week, and we will see you next time. Peace out, guys.